Well, thank you guys all for joining. We are here for our January chapter meeting for Wild Ones Greater Cleveland. So very excited about our topics today. So as mentioned, we have our educational topic of birdscaping. We have some of our general chapter updates. We have a guest speaker to talk to us about the National Wildlife Federation Sacred Grounds program. We have a lot of information about upcoming chapter events and activities, as well as a summary of some of our latest ones that we just had recently. And then we'll end with an open discussion about all, for everyone to discuss their green goals for the new year. So very excited. So for those of you just tuning in and don't know much about Wild Ones, we are a national nonprofit organization that promotes the importance of native plants and restoring the ecosystem. We do this through a variety of events, activities, such as Zoom calls like today, but we also do in-person workshops. We like to work with our schools, our community partners, but we can't do it without you, right? So if you're interested in learning more about Wild Ones, please don't hesitate to reach out. Obviously, we'll hear a little bit more about the organization as we move on. And for those of you who are not members, we hope you do consider supporting our efforts. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing. Ray, do you have your presentation ready so we can pass you the code?
Yeah, I just need to move some things out of the way. I am dropping the PDF of the slides into the chat once again that you can choose to use if you like. And then I will start the PowerPoint.
Yes, you just need to share your screen.
From beginning. All right, now the PowerPoint has dominated my screen and I can't reach the controls to share the screen. So let me try that again. Screen share is
Ray, would
here.
you like me to share and then you just talk through?
No, I think I've got this.
Okay.
Screen share here. Okay.
Looks good.
Yep. It does?
Yep.
Yep.
It could be a little bigger.
I think you're seeing all of the slides at once here.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
you're not in the slideshow
So,
presentation.
So I think I just have to launch this again. And so, yeah, I got to go back. So I have two screens and it wants to show the other screen. So I have to go back to stop share and start it again. Honest, I want to learn how to do this.
It's been a couple weeks. So.
It's popping up on the wrong screen.
We see it correctly, Ray. You're good.
Okay.
You're seeing the full slide?
Yes, we see the first step slide.
Okay, it should be the birdscaping one with Ray Stewart.
That's one. Then the second one is first steps.
So yeah, you are seeing the wrong thing. If you just, that's not what I want you to see. I want you to see the whole displayed slide, which is on my other screen.
Look on your display settings.
Yeah, look at display settings on the top left. but it's kind of okay as is. We just get a little preview of the next slide.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Okay. Let's try this. Does that look like full screen view?
Yes. Very good.
Thanks for bearing with me. All right, so this is about birdscaping. And let's jump right into this. And of course, we are Wild Ones of Greater Cleveland, and I am Ray Stewart. So let's move on. And advance screen. There it is, first steps. All right, so the notion here is to landscape for birds, and this is a little bit different topic than we normally do when we talk about ecological landscaping, because we often hear about pollinators, butterflies and bees that we're planting for that. So producing nectar and pollen seems to be the focus of most of our topics when we think about native landscaping. So this is a little bit different take on that. So we get to cover some different plants in this, and different aspects of native landscapes. So if you're favoring birds, the first things you want to consider is whether or not you want to put out a feeder, and many people do. And there's different kinds of feeders. There's seed feeders, there's suet feeders. And the better variety of food you put out, the better variety of birds that you will get. The main caution that I'm told is that if you start feeding the birds in the winter, that you should feel obliged to continue to feed them in the winter. Some of our feathered friends may decide to stick around because they see that there is a food source for them. And if that disappears, they may be hard up and confused about what to do. So if you start feeding, keep feeding, and help these birds get through the winter if you have coaxed them into staying over winter and not moving further south. Another thing to keep in mind for the birds, especially like this week, if there's any way you can have liquid water, it will benefit the birds. So that either means you're putting fresh water out there regularly, or you have a bird bath with a heating element in it as something to consider in your landscape. And you also want to consider window collisions. So big problem with declining bird populations is that there are many hazards, and often these are man-made hazards. If there's any way that you can modify your windows to reduce collisions, and sometimes that means putting some decals in there and putting some texture in it, or having blinds that are textured so that the reflection of the sky in your windows, especially the larger windows, do not fool birds that will fly in. A patio door is a good example, where if you have a big picture window, when they see the reflection of the sky in that window, they may be confused and not see that as a solid barrier and think they're flying into the open air. So look into ways that you can avoid those collisions. And one of my pet peeves is cats. I know there's lots of cat lovers out there. And many of my neighbors are cat lovers, and they let their cats wander out of the house day and night. And that is probably the biggest threat to our native bird populations, above all else, of the man-made risks that are out there, is domestic cats. So I would argue that it's not good for the cats, and it's not good for our bird populations either. I have tried to influence my city government to take up the issue and say, hey, please let's treat cats like dogs and not let them wander free. Birds is one of the reasons, and what these cats leave behind in my garden is not welcome either. So for those reasons, please take these first steps for the birds. So often what we hear when we're planting native, the value of natives goes something like this, quick outline. Plants are consumed by herbivores, and the majority of that is insects. Insects are made up of really good food values, sugars, proteins, fats, and then that gets sent through the food web into amphibians, reptiles, birds, many insectivores out there that eat the things that eat our native plants, and that really drives the ecology. So that's the pathway we normally see is the bugs. You want bugs to eat your native plants, put holes in the leaves sometimes. Rare that they take enough to do any damage. And then those caterpillars feed everything else. Some herbivores, like deer, will eat leaves and bypass that insect stage. But the biggest pathway of food through the environment is from native plants through insects to everything else. That's the story we normally hear. And then we encourage people to choose those native plants that will favor these insects. And we do well with that focus. But there are other pathways as well, and that's going to be more the focus of this birdscaping presentation. There are other foods out there as well. Seeds are important, so producing plants that have seeds also feeds the birds, and that could be a very important food source. By allowing your plants that once they flower and go to seed to leave those seeds out there. Now, many people that are traditional perennial plant growers are working hard at deadheading the plants to make them look nice, to make them look neat, make everything look tidy. But by removing those seed heads, you're also taking a lot of the food value of those plants out of circulation. So that's something to keep in mind. Nuts also, there are many trees that produce nuts. There's a wonderful woodpecker that is squirreling away nuts in little chinks in the bark here for later use. So nuts will help feed the birds, and certainly there's all kinds of fruit. Here's an example. This shows an American plum, a great source of food. And many of these food sources come later in the season. So we're looking at feeding the migrating birds in late summer and fall. This can be very important to help them on their way to parts south at that time of year. Many of them overwinter. Some of these fruits and nuts are persistent throughout the winter, so that those birds who do stay without migrating can take advantage of these food sources. So we're going to look at some examples of some of the choices that are out there that provide food at these without going through that pathway of insects to feed the birds. So American plum has been a mainstay of Native American populations. In fact, it is one of the plants that many Native Americans would plant and produce orchards, maybe even as a nomadic tribe. They would go from place to place, but they would revisit these places. So they would take seeds with them and plant them And there were places that have been found here in northern Ohio where there are little orchards of American plum that must have been deliberately planted sometime before settlement. There's many streams and creeks named after plum. So there's Plum Creek, there's Plum Brook here, both of those in northern Ohio, named after the American plum that was found in abundance in these areas. So it was a cultivated plant hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And it can still be used, although it is a bit tart, I'm told. So it's a medium-sized tree, beautiful spring flowers. If you're looking for a substitute for those calorie pears that you certainly don't want, you could do a lot worse than American plum. If you want a medium-sized street tree, especially in a place that has that's a little bit wet, you'll be favoring robins and bluebirds and cedar waxwings. They'll all be taking advantage of that fruit. And of course, in the spring, you got all those flowers too, so the normal pollinators will benefit as well. Flowering dogwood, very common tree in the woods, very easily accessed in traditional garden centers. You can, a medium-sized tree, it has, of course, flowers, favors the pollinators, but it also produces these beautiful berries. So you get a secondary aesthetic feature with the berries later on in the season. Loves partial sun. So it's a good woodland edge kind of plant. Warblers and thrushes are attracted to those berries, as well as cardinals and grosbeaks. You're going to be feeding the birds very well. Every landscape that has a little bit of space should have a flowering dogwood. Please be aware that there's a lot of varieties out there that may not function the same. So a straight species, Cornus florida, would be my first choice. Eastern redbud is another great native tree I see growing all over the place. It's very common on roadsides and in woodlots. Similar locations where it's like partial shade is favored by this, but full sun is fine. The flowers come out before the leaves, so it's a great early spring burst of color. Even hummingbirds will come to the flowers, but then late in the season, it produces these the fruit, the seeds that look like little bitty string bean pods. They dry out, and those pods split, and many birds. I get some of the local neighborhood finches coming over and feasting on these when those seeds begin to dry out, and they're very easily reached by them. They can get them off of the plant or as they fall to the ground. And this is a legume, so Eastern redbud is in the bean family, and which means that it's got a special relationship in the soil, helps to capture nitrogen from the atmosphere and stick it in the soil, enriching it with nutrients, and helping to favor other landscape plants that you may have in that root zone. So it's a win-win in many ways. Coralberry. I'm hearing about this and seeing it more and more. Has a tremendous fuchsia colored berry. I don't think the flowers are all that notable, but later in the season, when the berries ripen, it will attract lots of birds, sparrows, warblers, birds of many kinds to those berries. If they don't get eaten right away, they will persist on the plant well into the winter. So it's a nice medium to small shrub that can easily be worked in. I would not plant just one, just cause. I'd say find room for 3 of these guys and let them go. And I don't think you'll regret it. Viburnum, a little bit larger shrub. The American cranberry bush viburnum is not a cranberry. It's not in the cranberry family. It's a viburnum family plant. Medium size shrub, 8 to 12 feet. That's getting, for some people, they say, well, that's getting to a small tree size, isn't it? In my mind, the difference between a shrub and a tree is that a tree generally has 1, maybe 2 or 3 stems or trunks. If it gets more than that, it's more likely to be called a shrub. So it's more, a shrub is more of a form than a species. And wonderful fruit. I've been hearing people making jam or jelly out of the fruit. So pretty tart, but edible. A lot better if you can blend it into some kind of a sugary concoction before you eat it. And of course, robins and cedar waxwings will love those berries too. Here's one that I think is most renowned for the color of its the stems in winter. So red osier dogwood, the red is the stem color. Much more effective in mass, so a shrub border if you can. It loves wet soil, so if you've got a stream bank or some place that you want to stabilize the ditch, this would be a great one to put in for erosion control. But it also has flowers, it also has berries, but a tremendous winter effect to it. Winterberry holly. These come, it's very common in garden centers, this kind of holly. Many of the winterberry hollies that you find in garden centers are named varieties rather than pure species. So they may say, look, get our winterberry holly. It only grows 2 or 3 feet tall. It'll fit into your landscape so nice. Well, it's probably not the native species if that's the way it's being described. So look for Ilex verticillata and a pure species if you can handle that kind of height. Otherwise, you're going to be pruning it frequently. The flowers that you see in this picture here are not real showy. They come and go pretty quickly, but the berries are the real treat. Thus, its name winterberry. If you look closely at the flowers in this one image, you see there's 5 petals, and in the center is this little green sphere. That tells you that this is a female plant, because that little green sphere is what will develop into the red berry later in the season. The male plants do not have that. So when you're shopping for these, check to see if it is a male or a female. You should have both. I usually like, when I planted around here, I planted, I think, 4 females and 1 male. I put the male back off in a corner and kept the females where they're more likely to be seen. Fragrant sumac. Most people hear the word sumac, they think poison sumac. That's not the one you want to plant. Poison sumac is pretty nasty stuff. Skin irritant. The other sumacs are not. So this fragrant sumac does have a fragrance to the leaf. It's a medium-sized to small shrub, very tough. will grow in poor soils, rocky areas, and forms a nice solid kind of a hedge. So if you're looking for something just as a solid foundation plant along, the side of your garage or something like that, this will fill in very nicely. You plant these things a few feet apart, and within a couple of years, it'll look like just one solid mass in an area. The leaf, if you see the three-part leaf on this, so it looks like, oh, leaves of three, let it be. People might mistake this for poison ivy if all they see is a three-part leaf. It's not poisonous at all. Of course, the berries are valuable. The fruit is valuable to birds. The other sumacs are also good ornamentals. I think smooth sumac, staghorn sumac are more, 10 to 15 feet tall, but they are also nice ornamental plants. So consider the Rus family, the sumac family in your landscaping searches. Elderberries, I think, if you haven't gone and collected elderberries in the wild and feasted on them when they're ripe, you've really missed out. They will stain your clothes, so be aware of that. But it's a nice, lovely flower, flat-topped white flower, followed by abundant clusters of dark blue berries. Birds will love them. They commonly grow in wetter areas, open woods. They do well with more sun, but some partial shade would be okay. And you'll favor the birds by doing that. Allegheny serviceberry, there's other kinds of amelanchers out there, but Allegheny serviceberry is very common, easy to find in most garden centers. Could be a substitute for calorie pear. Beautiful spring flowers. Tends to be more of a multi-stemmed shrub than a tree, but you might find a tree form limited. If the nurseryman prunes it to single or double trunks, you might find something like that available. A good street tree, I think. Spice bush, lovely understory tree or shrub, medium size. You crush the leaf, you get a nice, fragrant, spicy odor from that. Always fun to do when you come by one of those. The berries are loved by wildlife. Early to flower in the spring, so good for pollinators as well. And don't forget the nuts. American hazelnut is another understory woodland tree or shrub that grows edible nuts. Hard to find the nuts because the birds will usually get them first. But occasionally you can stumble upon one of these with a few ripe nuts on it, and you can just grab them and eat them right off the plant when they're mature, and get a little snack while you're hiking in the woods. And don't forget a vine once in a while. So, I always thought that vines were just a nuisance kind of plant, or that grapevines were a nuisance plants and they were escaped from vineyards. Well, that does happen, and there are a lot of invasive cultivated wine grapes that kind of get loose, but there are also a number of native grapes that are out there. So here, a frost grape is one of them. it'll scramble over trees and shrubs. So it'll climb up, and it can kind of shade out some of the plants a little bit. That can happen, but you're also getting, these wonderful clusters of fruit that will feed the birds. And then this close up I have, the lower of the pictures, is just to show the vine itself that looks really gnarly and shredded. There are some birds that seek out grapevines so that they can grab these ribbons of grapevine bark to weave into their nests. So that is another thing to consider when favoring the birds is, are you providing nesting material for the birds? So there's certainly food, there's shelter that these plants can provide, but nesting material is also an important consideration, and a grapevine provides that and will help support certain birds that really like that, the long, strong threads of the bark from a grapevine. It's great for engineering a bird's nest, and may be essential to some of our birds and wildlife. And also grasses, if you're growing some of the native grasses, those are used in nests as well. So leaving these materials over winter can be very beneficial. So if you're not trimming your perennial garden down to the ground, if you're leaving the seed heads up, you're providing food for birds. If you're leaving grasses up, those blades of grass can be really important nesting materials for the birds when they return in the spring. And having a plant with a horizontal branch on it, you've just provided a perch, and you may get more birds in your yard just because they've got a place to hang out, or they've got a place to sit and look and check out the landscape before going to your bird bath. They need to, they often, want to stop and check things out before taking advantage of the other resources that you're providing. So don't forget about a nice little perch for our feathered friends. And that's my rundown.
Are you gonna show us your wonderful display, Ray?
What's my wonderful display?
Oh, the one that you and Jana. I was about to say, I know you have something else.
Jana's made something.
Do you need me to share?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
see.
Do me a favor, stop sharing, and then I'll display it. So one of the things we're going to start trying to do this year when we do topics like this is possibly, I can't promise you every time, to show you a sample of how you can maybe design your yard to incorporate some of these recommendations, and or for design purposes. So give us a few moments, and Ray, let me know once you've passed over control.
I stopped sharing.
Okay, so you'll have to click on Zoom 2 and change, oh, actually, I can reclaim it. Give me 1 second. All right. Give me 1 moment.
I'm just looking at some of the chat responses, and I really appreciate seeing comments that people have put in here. adding tremendously to. I was hoping this would happen. adding to the content from your own knowledge, background, and experience with native plants and birds. Thank you all for contributing.
Yes. So Ray, do you want to call out some of the elements you talked about within this design?
I need to see it here.
Can we print that?
We'll be actually sharing it both on our website and whatnot. So like I said, this is something we've recognized that there's not a lot of great resources for design options
Right.
to incorporate into yard. So this is something we're gonna start trying to do. Like I said, I can't promise it every time, but we definitely teamed up to try to make this happen for you this time.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got like a 1-inch square in the middle of my screen with the design. I don't know why that is. Oh,
Is everyone else seeing a full, or is it small for everyone?
No, it's good.
Okay, just want to make sure it wasn't on my side.
Okay, and okay, yeah, now I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's a plant list from the presentation. And yes, there's a water source in here. The green is like a lawn, and then like a backyard surrounded by various plants, and so they're numbered. So number
Love
1
it.
up here in the corner shows flowering dogwood. Number 2 is down to the left. There's a threesome of hazelnuts. There's a long stretch here, number 3, of the fragrant sumac, as I was talking, like making a hedge that'll fill in as if it was one. Number 4, a black chokeberry. I don't think that was one that I had on my list, but is an excellent addition for the birds. Number 5, eastern redbud. Here, there's 1, 2 on this side, and then a third one off to the other side. It's hard to have too many if you've got the space to put those in. And of course, many of these shade trees, if you've got shade plants or spring ephemerals, they can go in and around these plants too. So just because there's a tree with a canopy that is 10 feet wide doesn't mean that's the only thing that's going to be in that space. So think in 3 dimensions as you're considering your landscape. Maybe 4 dimensions, because then you can have spring flowering things followed by summer flowering things. So include time in your landscape dimensions as well. And then the wet to moist site down below,
Right,
there
that's what I'm
is,
interested in.
yeah, the Allegheny service berries here, a nice threesome. Unless it's a real spectacular plant, a specimen plant, 3 is always better than 1, in my humble opinion. We've also got a single here that is the grape. You may only want 1 grapevine, because it could get to be quite a big tangle if it's not well managed, but it could be trained up on a fence like it is along the back here. So grapevines are they can be whipped into submission, but it takes a yearly effort to make sure that is doing what you want it to do. Number 7, here's a little threesome over here of the winterberry holly. These are labeled as being females. I don't know that there's a male in this design, but just a reminder, they do come as either males or females. And if you or your neighbors don't have it, there may be 1 male in the neighborhood that can service all of those females. So there needs to be 1 around somewhere. And then there are number 9, coralberry here. I wouldn't have stopped with 1.
Never heard of coralberry.
Yeah. Number 9. Yes. And then 10, we've got, oh, there's the male. I'm sorry, I missed that earlier. So 7 over here with the female winter berries, and then in the middle there's a male. And it looks like the viewing area would be down below, and then back by the fence, kind of tucked away, is the male. The number 11 being the red osier dogwood, a nice cluster of those. 12 coming up with a nice clump of spice bush. And here it also shows another blue dot with a water source in this one below. So getting some medium-sized woody plants, some small trees or medium-sized or to low shrubs is a nice way to fill space to get a native plant garden started, and then think about how to fill in with perennials and ground covers. Is a nice follow-up to that. Okay.
All right, thank you, Ray. So one thing I just want to add on to the conversation about the tree, what you put under some of the trees, but back in, I want to say it's October or November, we, Julian team, did a wonderful presentation for us on soft landings. So I highly recommend that you check out that's on our YouTube channel. Because it would be a great supplement to this if you're looking to do the next layer on how to support this type of ecosystem. So what questions do you guys have for Ray? Any raised hands? I'm not seeing any raised hands. Going once, going twice. All right, God. So we'll move on to our next topic. But if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to maybe email us, or when we update our YouTube channel with this, that might be another great way. But and then for our members, obviously we have our members only group chat. That's also a great way to ask more questions and whatnot. Because it's it's a really this is a great topic, but this is also a great way to think about, so many of us are about to hit that like spring fever with being so cold and in the house. And I know the home and garden shows are just about to start in February here. So, it's a great thing to start thinking about what you might want to include in your yard this year. So thank you for that, Ray. All right, so let's jump to chapter updates, and give me one moment. Okay. All right, guys. So for those that are members, we have now hit over 100 members. We're really excited about this. We have obviously many more followers, over 1,000 followers. But by being a member, it's really important to acknowledge this, because we do so many events and activities free and open to the public. And by becoming a member, you are supporting those types of efforts. We're doing our best to keep that commitment moving forward. But since our last meeting, we had 19 new members join. So like I said, it's very exciting. And only more to come. So and we had 2 new people join from a volunteer leadership perspective. Iris Matos is our new project manager, and she'll be helping us, manage some of our projects and initiatives that we have coming up. One of those being the Northeast Ohio Habitat Corridor and our Keystone workshops. So she's going to help us keep us organized. And we have Jane, who I believe Jane is on the line. Say hi, Jane.
Hello.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Hey.
Jane, as you saw, several of you, especially if you're new members, are be hearing a lot from her. But Jane has been kind enough to join and help Laura with membership chair duties. So those Jane and Laura help us, work with our new members, help them get integrated to our chapter. And so they're very important to our team. So so more to come on that. And Julie's here to also talk to us about the latest on the Northeast Ohio Habitat Corridor.
Hey, everyone. So we're having a planning meeting for the Northeast Ohio Native Habitat Corridor, and I wanted to give a brief refresher on the project for people who haven't heard of it or who are new. Hi, new people. So our project is called the Northeast Ohio Native Habitat Corridor, and we're planning to launch it this spring. The tagline is creating bird and pollinator habitat while connecting communities block by block, and I'll give a little description of what the project looks like. So this project is inspired by similar projects like the Heights Native Pollinator Path, which you may have heard of, which is in Cleveland Heights. Some of the different elements of our project are, well, hang on, I'm going to back up. So the goal of the project is really to inspire people to take the first step into gardening with native plants, to make it really easy and appealing, and also to equip people to get their neighborhoods involved in gardening with native plants. So some of the elements of this are, we've created these really nice yard signs that we're going to get printed really soon. That was in the first image. We're going to have a map that people can add themselves to feel part of the larger movement in the region. We're partnering with some local nurseries, local native plant nurseries, to offer some beginner native plant kits. It would just be 6 plants that people could plant somewhere like their tree lawns, which is what they did in the Heights Native Pollinator Path. We'd also kind of back this up by connecting people to our events and materials so that people could learn more about it and get more into it. So in the Heights Native Pollinator Path, the way this looks is it started just on one block, and people took like a really manageable size for a beginner garden in their tree lawns and put in native plants and had this really nice sign. So when you're driving down the road, you can see that like something is happening on the street. Because neighbors are all doing it together, makes it easy for people to get involved and kind of learn how to do it. So you can flip to the next slide. So one of the benefits for wildlife is that even though people are creating really small garden patches, they're not standing alone. And together, these small patches of habitat can add up to more than the sum of their parts. They can support pollinators that need more habitat, and they can also provide connectivity between, say, different fragmented pieces of habitat in an urban area. So that can allow pollinators to move back and forth in your neighborhood. And then the other thing it offers is social connectivity. So there's research that shows that people are more likely to do native plantings when their neighbors do it as well. They don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. And also if their neighbors do it, maybe they can learn from them and feel inspired to do it. So we're going to be offering tools for people who are really into native plants to share educational materials with their neighbors, maybe directly with their neighbors or people in their garden club or whoever. And we'll also have a program where they can invite a speaker to come and speak about native plants and promote the habitat corridor and get neighborhood groups to join in. So if you're interested in getting involved, come join us for our planning meeting. That'll be on Thursday, the 25th. We have a need for volunteers. Once the project gets launched, we need people to help process applications to join, potentially to ship the signs, to answer emails, and to talk at events. So if, we'd really love your help with it. I think it'll be a really interesting and important project. even if you're not planning on attending, we've got a little survey to help decide what price to offer the signs at. So you can go to this link right here. I also sent an email recently about it. Yeah, and just like look out for our soft launch because we'll be trying it out just on our members. So that'll be coming this spring. Thanks.
Julie, would you mind putting that link in the chat so people can start providing their feedback on that?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so please, if you're interested, please consider volunteering a little bit of your time. If nothing else, you can get excited about our launch coming up this spring. Like I said, our members will be, doing a little soft launch to test out our process. But we're really excited about this initiative because this is just the beginning of it. Obviously, as Julie said, this is that first part. But eventually this is going to spread to schools and hopefully cities and, a variety of other things that come with that. So very excited to get this off the ground. All right, so next, so in case you guys haven't seen social media, we are launching our winter book club. So this is our very first one, and we'll be covering Nature's Best Hope. This is going to be in partnership with the Shaker Lakes Nature Center, and there's going to be an option that you can come in person to the Shaker Lakes Nature Center, or you can call in. It's going to be on Saturday, February 10th, from 1 to 3:30. And we are excited to share that we're going to have a special guest joining us virtually. And her name is Sarah Franklin Jane, and she has an upcoming book that'll be coming out this spring. And she is creating the companion guide for Nature's Best Hope. And this was, done with Doug Talby, but so that's going to be our second book that will probably be happening sometime in spring. So she's actually going to come, or well, she's come virtually to help with the discussion of our first book club, and then she's actually going to speak to us about her upcoming book, and then she'll be also part of our second book club, which will happen in a couple more months. So hope you consider whether you have read the book already or you're interested in reading it with us and being a part of that discussion. And also don't feel bad if you can't read all of it, just come be a part of the discussion. I think it's going to be an exciting opportunity. And if you are a chapter member, we have an even more special opportunity. We're going to be reaching out to our chapter members probably within the next week. We have a special opportunity if you're a chapter member with this author to get an early preview of her book. It will not be the pretty printed version. This will be a PDF version, and it's going to be, we're going to have like a discussion behind it and also provide her some early feedback. So, so it's a really exciting opportunity. If you're not a member and you want to be a part of that, possibly consider becoming a member. But first, we're going to survey our current members to see who might be able to be interested in following that timeline and working with this author. And depending on that, we might have to limit our audience. But it's a really exciting opportunity that we're very excited to share with our members. So more to come. All right, so volunteer opportunities. So like I said, we shared at the beginning of the meeting, and many of you do know, we are a nonprofit organization that runs on volunteers. And we have so many exciting events and activities and initiatives that we want to work with you on and partner with our community partners. So with that being said, in working with our leadership team, we have identified the key positions that we'll be looking to fulfill within the next year. So that way we're setting ourselves up for success. So if you are considering volunteering, which is not at all required of being a member, please, I'm going to quickly go through this list. There's also other ways to volunteer as well. but we know many of you have a variety of talents and skills and backgrounds that can potentially help with these efforts. But if you are interested in any of these or potentially other ways, please don't hesitate to send us an email at wildonesgreatercleveland at gmail.com, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So with that being said, some of the ones that we're looking for sooner than later, an events coordinator. So you'll see in a moment, we have a lot of events coming up, and that is not going to lessen in the next year. So it would be very helpful if you have a background in planning and organizing events to help us, consider volunteering and helping us schedule out these events. It's very important because, as you've seen, I think from our goals going into this year, especially with the launch of the Keystone workshop series, is we're not just going to be doing 1 or 2 workshops. Our goal with some of these workshops are to be able to provide them in a variety of locations throughout Northeast Ohio. So both virtually, but in person. So it is accessible for anyone. So this role will be critical to that effort. Another opportunity is our volunteer coordinator. This is somebody to help us organize and talk with potential members and identify opportunities there. Education chair. So we obviously do a lot of educating. This person will help us organize, arrange, and lead possibly our monthly educational sessions, as well as potentially help us plan out our future educational events and activities. Social media, if this is something you're interested in learning more about, please let us know. We are also looking for a grant chair. So like I said, since we're a nonprofit, grant chair is especially important because, as well as donations, because that helps us fund efforts that take money. So, and one of those bigger efforts that we'll be doing this year is we're planning a large scale garden installation. We're still figuring out that location, but this will be a demonstration garden available for the public. And obviously that requires funds. So grants like some of the ones that you'll be hearing about here in a few minutes are a key piece to making these activities possible. Administrative support. So we couldn't run without our core officers, actually any of our officers for that matter. But we're looking for a couple people to help us from an administrative support perspective. This can be emails, this can be helping with PowerPoints, communications, and just helping support our core officers, both as we get maybe an influx of things coming in, like we expect around Earth Day, we get a lot of inquiries, but also we have a launch coming up with regards to Northeast Ohio Habitat Quarter. But also this team will also help the staff as we, maybe want to take a vacation. It's just really helpful to have an extra pair of hands to help with the load. Fundraiser chair, as we just mentioned, helping, get some additional donations for our efforts is just very helpful. Publicity chair, Keystone workshops. We have more information on the website with regards to that. But we're especially looking for at least 2 people within Cuyahoga County that could help us facilitate educational workshops. Photography chair, communication chair, and we'll be also looking for additional board members as we go in we'll head towards the end of the year. So if some of these interest you, let us know. We're happy to have a conversation. Or like I said, if you're interested in helping in other ways, don't hesitate to reach out. There is a place for everyone. And we really appreciate all of our existing volunteers because they work very hard with everything that they do. So speaking of volunteers and members, our recent events, we recently celebrated our very first annual meeting and Wild Winter Soiree. So it was a really great time. We had some crafts, we had education, a topic, and it was really just a great time to socialize with friends and meet new friends and talk about native plants. So really great time. So thank you for everyone that came out. And we also had our second winter sewing event since we last talked at LCC, and Danielle was kind enough to lead this event on January 6th, and she'll be leading another one here very soon. We'll talk about that in a moment. So speaking of upcoming events, we have a lot and there's more coming. So just in the next month, we have next week our native seed packing event in Akron. So that's Wednesday, January 24th at 1:30. Also next week, we have our project meeting for Northeast Ohio Habitat Corridor on Thursday at 6 p.m. We also have a Cultivating Change with Lorraine Johnson. This is a free webinar through our national office. That will be the same day, but at 7 p.m. We also will be having a project meeting for the Keystone workshops and potential volunteers on Sunday, January 28th at 2 p.m. Then we have the Cleveland Seed Bank annual seed swap. So for this event, this is more of an informational table event. We are not hosting it, but we are participating in it as a informational group. And we are looking for 1 to 2 volunteers to help with tabling. I'll be there, Ray will be there. We'll be handing out some native seeds. We'll have an informational display, and it'll just be really a great time to socialize with community members and like-minded individuals interested in sharing their seeds. Many of them will be gardeners. So, but if you're just interested in attending the event, the first hour mentioned in here is to help for setup. But if you are a member of the seed bank, the first 2 hours, I believe, are for just their members. And the last 2 hours are open to the public. Then we'll have our seed and social event at Ray's house in Amherst. That'll be on Saturday, February 3rd at 1 p.m. Followed the next day by another winter sewing workshop that'll be at the Rocky River Nature Center with the Cleveland Metro Parks. We're getting close to full on our first workshop at 1 p.m. So if you want to get into the 1 p.m. one, be sure to sign up right away. And once we fill that up, the 3 p.m. class will open up. So we're really excited for that event. And then, as we mentioned, we have the Winter Book Club, Nature's Best Hope, that will have the in-person and virtual event on February 10th at 1 p.m. And then, of course, our next chapter meeting in February, that'll be the third Thursday, and that is Thursday, February 15th at 7 p.m. So that is just a sample of some of the things we have going on. And there's only more to come. So we're really excited about what we have scheduled.
Winter is the slow season for us.
I'm sorry, what was that, Ray?
Winter is the slow season for us.
Yes, that is very true. Winter is the slow season for us. So we're really excited what we've accomplished and are starting to able to be provided to the community. So, and we'll only be stronger as we continue to grow. So with that being said, I think we're ready for Sierra. Sierra, are you still here?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Do you want me to give you rights, or do you want me to share on your behalf?
If you don't mind sharing, I'll just let you know when to switch. Sounds good?
All right. Sounds good.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone. I'm Sierra, and I get to do the newsletter for Greater Cleveland Wild Ones, and I also, in my day job, work on a program called Sacred Grounds. So I'm going to talk a little bit big picture and then go in exactly on what the program is and if there are ways for you to get involved. But first, I want to shout out this amazing picture by Jessica. This what happened last year, and we actually worked together with Sacred Grounds and Wild Ones to plant a beautiful native plant garden at the First Baptist Church of Greater Cleveland. So I am really excited about this upcoming year for more and more opportunities for planting native gardens and working together. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide for me, this program is actually open right now for applications. Okay, let me just overview Sacred Grounds real quick. Jessica, do you mind actually going to the next slide for me? Thank you. Okay, so basically, big picture, the National Wildlife Federation does this program, and I get to do it through the engagement and community engagement and justice team. And we are working ultimately to support healthy habitats and communities. So we're really focused on how do we benefit people and wildlife together. So we do that specifically in Cleveland, as well as Toledo, Detroit, and Grand Rapids. And the programs take different shapes. The one we're talking about today is called Sacred Grounds, and we partner with faith-based organizations. But in these pictures, you also see on the far left there is Warrensville Road Community Baptist Church in Maple Heights, and they are part of our Sacred Grounds program. But in the middle, we're doing a giveaway of native plants, which we do in all of our cities. And then on the far right, we have a bunch of kids playing, as we also do some outdoor nature-based play programming as well. So if you go to the next slide for me, please, Jessica, Sacred Grounds can look a lot of different ways depending on who we're working with. So in Cleveland, we get to do this program in partnership with the Cuyahoga County Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as Journey on Yonder and the Greater Cleveland Interfaith Alliance. So it really only happens in partnership. So what we do is when the application opens, folks who are part of a community-based organization, such as a church, a mosque, a temple, many other things, can apply for our $1,500 grants and technical support. And our goal is to plant a native plant garden and then do some sort of community engagement and outreach around that. So it looks a lot of different ways. If you're dealing with flooding, it might be a rain garden. Or if you're really excited about education, maybe we're talking about educating kids, maybe we're talking about educating community members. All of those things can inform the shape of the garden. Another thing we hear a lot is creating access to green space and community just gathering areas. So we've done some courtyards and things like that. These three pictures are from 3 different sites in Cleveland. And you see even one of our Wild Ones, Greater Cleveland members featured in the middle of the far left one doing some sheet mulching, and that was in the fall. So a lot of different things. And big picture, we're doing Sacred Grounds, and we have over 100 congregations involved throughout the Great Lakes region. So Jessica, a quick favor, will you go back a couple of slides to the application? Because I want to take just a moment to talk about the details around that. So our application is open now. It's a very simple, very straightforward, and I am absolutely available to talk more. The bottom line is, in order to be able to apply, you do need to be with a faith-affiliated organization and located within the city of Cleveland or a first-ring suburb. And I also want to note that this year, in our efforts to do more and more intentional community building work and peer-to-peer learning, we are giving priority to applicants in the neighborhoods of Coudell and Mount Pleasant. So if you want to learn more or even apply, that's the link, and I will also put it in the chat, as well as please reach out to me. Our application is open until February 4th, and I would love to talk more and more about that. Yeah, so thank you so much. And even if you are not involved in applying for this or you're not part of a faith-based organization, keep an eye out, because this year we will undoubtedly have more opportunities for volunteering for either the day of planting the big garden or just maintenance, because those are also big needs that we have in our community as we all support each other. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, please share with friends or family that might be interested. This is a very exciting opportunity. And as Sierra mentioned, we'll definitely be helping with a few of their projects and initiatives where we can. So Any questions from the group on this? All right, I don't see any raised hands, so we'll move on. All right. Oh, and here, so many more pictures.
So many more pictures. We get to do this in a lot of different areas. And again, they all look really different. As you can see from just a snapshot, these were all taken last year. So a lot of different ways it looks.
Thank you, Sierra. All right, then. So I think we are on to our open discussion, guys. So what's everyone's goals, green goals for this year? So who wants to start?
I can start. I've been trying to plant as many like human edible plants that also benefit wildlife that are native. So 2 years ago, actually, from Julie's nursery, I bought American hazelnut and a persimmon. I still need another persimmon, so I've got to grab one from you. But I'm on the lookout for some serviceberry trees or bare roots right now. And then Ray, you gave me some ideas on like the American plum and things like that. So and I have some elderberries growing. So I really want to try to find some things that we can also enjoy too. So that's kind of one of my goals this year is to get them in the ground because I know they'll take a few years to get started.
Great, thank you, Laura. Speaking of projects and stuff, one of the things that when I started looking into the birdscaping, and I knew Ray and Janice and stuff, and Danielle were helping with some of that. One of the shrubs that I identified that I wanted to start including because of that topic was snowberry, and the reason why was because I found out that it was a native shrub and great for that because the berries, it's one of the last berries, it goes into winter for the birds. But when I was researching it, I found out that it's considered or they believe it to be extinct in the wild in Ohio. And you can still find it in certain gardens, but it's something that I personally want to try to start reintegrating to our area. So who else has some goals?
I do. Well, it's to learn as much as I can. I'm so new to all of this. It's been about 2 years, and I've made some transitions with my job. So I live in Berlin Heights, and I have 3 acres. I have some woods, and I have just started 2 years ago. I started planting different pollinators, and I just kind of keep going and trying to learn from what I see happening in my yard and one of the reasons I'm a member, because I want to learn so much more and be active in what you're doing. So I have a lot of questions down the road. I know I will, but I'm enjoying it. And I've had I went to Riverside Nursery in Delaware a couple years ago when I took a job down there, and I bought some chokeberries and some dogwood trees, and I went to various places that sell native plants. I've cone flowers, Scioto Gardens. I bought things from them. And when I left my position in Delaware, I had some of my staff members who are into native plants, gave me some native plants to bring back. I have an area that I want to create a monarch garden. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just doing it. Some of it seems to work out okay. My chokeberries are really pretty, and I love the color in the fall. So that's kind of my goal, is just to become more knowledgeable and to help as much as I can.
Great. No, that's an exciting goal. And yeah, there's a lot of great information on monarch way stations. And I know we're hoping to possibly do a monarch way station as a group this year. So definitely reach out if you have questions, because I think we even have Milkweed Matt, who actually raises monarchs on the call here. So he might be another person to reach out to within the group. So
Okay.
thank you for sharing. So Diane, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, yes. So this is my year for sure to cut down the burning bush that was in the backyard that was left here by the former owner. So I have 100 birds that love to use it as a perching spot. So I want to replace it with something with a similar branching habit. And I'm not sure. I was thinking about chokeberry, but I haven't made up my mind yet. I don't know, maybe somebody could recommend something. It's probably like about 9 feet tall and I don't know, 12 feet wide right now, and it's got branches everywhere, but it's got to go.
Well, I think we have a great crew to give you a few suggestions. I mean, we have Julie with Native City Nursery, or we have Ray, or we have tons of people on the group. So anybody want to throw a suggestion or two out?
I'm so sorry. I got distracted looking up nature in my backyard, Ohio. Can you, what was the suggestion for again?
It's to replace a burning bush.
There's so many good shrubs. Is it in the shade or in the sun?
It's in the sun in a dry spot.
What about like a silky dogwood?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of like great sun wetland plants that do all right in dry areas, like viburnums and dogwoods. Oh, well, if you have room for something taller, a flowering dogwood would normally grow in dry, so that might be really nice. There's also like, if you wanted something that was shrub-like but not too tall, you could try something like blue wild indigo or shrubby St. John's wort. Those might be like a nice shorter option. There's so many good leaves.
Yeah, I want to follow up with that too, saying that a lot of the trees that we're accustomed to being trees can be pruned to be multi-stemmed trees and give the appearance of a shrub. If you're looking for branching, sometimes it can be done simply by pruning serviceberry and redbud, and a lot of trees can be multi-trunked or stemmed simply by the way it's raised from a young age.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestions, guys. Kate, I think you're next. Oh, go ahead.
White fringe tree is another possibility. Shiananthus is really underused, but it's a multi-stem shrub. The only downside is that it blooms for about 2 weeks.
What was the name of it again?
White fringe tree.
Oh, yeah.
I put in the chat, of course I remembered right after I got off. New Jersey tea is a really pretty short shrub that likes dry soil, so that would be a good fit.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I have one that I can move from the vegetable garden and put it there.
Yeah. But if you want big, I don't think New Jersey fits that, because that's small and I think it's slow growing too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But beautiful.
I didn't know how big your burning bush was. Good for you replacing it.
Kate, you're next. We can't hear you, but here, give me 1 second. I think we have somebody off mute. So give me 1 second. I might have to mute somebody. All right, Kate, you want to try that again?
Yeah, can you hear me? All right, cool. I'm Kate. I'm from Cleveland. I lead a group in the little corner of Cleveland in West Park called Friends of Impet Park. And we had Jessica and Janice out to do a invasive species removal day, and Julie and Dave came out to do some soil assessments for us. And we've got a lot of things going on for our goals for the year, including, doing a pollinator garden in front of our City of Cleveland Impet Park sign, and a wetland garden, and continuing to remove invasive species. And, we welcome anybody to help us with any elements of that if you're, in our little corner of Cleveland near Rocky River and Lakewood. And everything that we're learning through Wild Ones has been invaluable to us. So I just want to thank everybody. I was busy taking my notes as I was listening to everybody. And Ray, can you tell me what that was again? Did you say fringe?
Mm-hmm.
Is it called fringe?
Yeah, white fringe.
White fringe. Okay. So yeah, we have, and just the projects keep coming. So we even talked about maybe doing some winter sowing, coming to some of the upcoming workshops, and maybe doing our own little native plant thing with our neighbors and doing the winter sowing. So I don't know, we just got all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, well, feel free to send us the latest on the native garden, because I know we had offered to possibly help you with that. And if it's gonna be something sooner and later, I know you guys have been working on your playground project of late, which I've seen the designs they're gorgeous. So
the playground is kind of taken precedence just for in the short term, but hopefully we'll be done with the next iteration. Then we can pay attention to our gardens, which, everybody's getting excited. We have another goal too, to maybe go out and do some cardboard mulching to kill the sod around the sign during the winter, and, just all kinds of stuff.
yeah,
We can just get out there if it stops snowing for a few days.
Absolutely. And Kate's another great example. Like I said, we always try to partner with our community partners. So if you're part of a group or organization that we could possibly help with, or partner on an event, don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to do our best to try to either provide education and resources, to maybe like actually showing up in person like we did and did that invasive species removal. So there's a lot of different ways we try to help and collaborate with everyone. So,
and just to let you know, since you did that workshop with us, we've collected probably, we have taken out so much. There's still tons left, but we've had bags and bags that we leave for the city to pick up. And we actually just stopped just a few weeks ago. As recently as then, we were still out there doing it. So thank you.
That is ambitious given some of the weather. So that's very exciting. And speaking of which, I still have to pick up my pruners from you.
I have the pruner, and like I said, if you want me to drop it off somewhere, let me know. But yeah, if the weather's like 40, 35, 40 degrees, we have no problem being out there.
You were much braver than I. So, all right. Any other questions, or actually any other goals that anybody else wants to share?
I can share one sort of related to our talk. So at the nursery, we're gonna be starting a garden, and really excited about that. But something I've been sort of really looking forward to is we got a cat this winter, and she's very cute, and I'm sad to leave her at home alone. And I really care about the topic of like keeping cats out of the outdoors because they kill so many birds. And I think if we get the time, I want to build a catio to our shed at the nursery, and then we can bring the cat to work, and she can hang out there and educate people about the importance of keeping cats inside. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Cool.
Such a cute idea. And will be constantly entertained. So, all right, well, let's wrap up here. And by the way, guys, there's going to be so many opportunities to socialize, or if you have questions about some of your goals, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out, especially using the Facebook group for our members. So I think that I feel like that's something underutilized today. But it can be really a great source once people start using those to just start getting thoughts and ideas together and bounce ideas off of each other. So give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. All right. So our normal call to action, please, if you aren't already, please follow us on whether that's Facebook or Instagram. This is assuming you use social media. We're even on YouTube with our recordings, as well as we have our website. We're also on LinkedIn. So if you follow that from a professional standpoint, we don't share as much information. I would say Facebook is the best because we actually share articles and a few other things on there, followed by Instagram probably being the next best. But and also, if you are a member and you're not seeing our emails, make sure you are double checking to make sure it's not going to junk mail. And make sure if it is going to junk mail, you uncheck that so it knows it's safe. Because we always want to make sure you're up to date on both our events and activities, as well as just information and announcements that we might be sharing with regards to our members. And if you are not a member today, please consider joining because, like I said, it really is one of our key goals to try to keep all of our events and activities as free and open to the public as possible, so we can continue to do them. So please consider to do that. And we hope you guys had a great time today. We're very excited about, like I said, so many upcoming events, activities, and goals and initiatives. And I hope you guys like this new format. We're going to try to keep up with that. And we'll talk with many of you in the coming weeks. And if nothing else, hopefully in another month. Okay? Have a nice day, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thanks. Bye.